Welcome back. Here's your latest Texas housing market update. So in today's video, I'm going to touch on what's happening right now in Austin, Texas, Houston, as well as Dallas regarding home prices, housing inventory, the share of price reductions, and of course, much more. So I have a lot to share in today's video. And by the way, I'll provide timestamps below in the video description below, I should say, because if you guys are only interested in Houston, Texas, for example, you guys can fast forward. So first I want to talk about what's happening right now in Austin, then it's going to be Houston, and then I'll end this video talking about Dallas, Texas. So in Austin, let's have a look at new listings because this is for the 4 weeks ended July 9th according to Redfin. This is based on Redfin's data center here. So new listings in Austin, Texas fell big time, down 32.3% compared to the same time frame in 2022. We started the year off where new listings were more or less on par with last year as well as 2021. But once we hit around April and May this year, they started to kind of peel away from last year's levels. And by the way, the black line here is 2022. The orange line's 2021. Of course, this blue line right here is this year. So new listings fell by 32.3%. Let's have a look at active listings, which is another way of saying active listing inventory or the number of houses for sale. So inventory numbers. Active listings in Austin, Texas up by 9.26% year over year. There's around 11,576 houses for sale in the metro area there. 1 year ago at this time, there was around 10,595. So we have approximately 9% more compared to last year, but also much higher compared to 2021 as well. Again, around 11.5 thousand active listings. Back in 2021, this time, there was 6,319. This means there's around 83% more houses for sale in Austin compared to just 2 years ago. So inventory levels much higher compared to 2021. I also want to share the number of pending home sales. This is a measure of contracts being signed between buyers and sellers. So in other words, buyers getting their offers accepted when writing offers for houses for sale, of course. So pending home sales is on par with last year's levels, an increase of 4.6%, but lower than 2021. Right now, 751. At this time in 2021, there was 1,032. Okay, that's the number of pending home sales. Let's have a look at closed home sales. This is a lag indication what the housing market was like 1 and 2 months ago. So closed home sales are down by 6.9%, also below 2021 as well. Let's also have a look at the share of price drops according to altosresearch.com for Austin, Texas. The share right now is at 54.47%, around 55%. This means around 55% of the houses listed for sale for the 7 days ended July 14th, around 54% of those have already reduced their asking prices. This means that more houses than not have reduced their asking prices in Austin, Texas. And by the way, something you guys should be aware of as well, when looking at the state of Texas as a whole, according to altosresearch.com, the share of price reductions is only 38%. So in Austin, Texas at more or less 55%, this is much higher compared to the state's average. On top of that, at 54.5%, this is higher than last year when the share was 48%, and also much higher compared to the past few years before that, because in 2021, this time, it was around 26%. 2020, it was 35%, and pre-pandemic levels in 2019 at this time, it was around 43%. Also around 49% in late July of 2018. Therefore, this means the share right now at around 54% is at least a 5-year high in the Austin, Texas housing market. All right, let's get back to Redfin's data center here and talk about home prices because this is pretty mind-blowing here. Austin, Texas, look at this. The median sold price for the 4 weeks ended July 9th is $480,000. That's a decrease of 9% year over year. But in my personal opinion, that's not the biggest story because when looking at prices over the past 1 month, This is more or less on par with the same time frame in 2021. This means that home sold prices are more or less at a 2-year low during this time frame. That's because back in 2021, it was only $478,000. Now it's $480,000. This is, of course, much lower than last year's levels at $527,000. Here's something else you guys should be aware of as well, is that when looking at the peak last year, which was set in May and June last year, let's just call it May last year, the median sold price was $574,000 in Austin. Now it's only $480,000. This is a huge decrease of 16% compared to last year's high, or a decrease of around $100,000. One more thing I do want to touch on regarding home prices in Austin, Texas, is that they have been increasing this year though. So in comparing prices to start this year, the median sold price is up by about 6%. Historically speaking, on a national level though, home prices year to date are up by 10%. So the gain of 6% is below the nation's average. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about how fast or how slow houses are selling. So for the 4 weeks ended July 9th, days in the market, or the median days in the market, is 48 days. So this is a time frame when you list your house for sale to when the home seller accepts an offer from a home buyer. On average, that's 48 days. That is about 19 days slower compared to 2021 as well as 2022. That's because this time last year, days in the market was around 29 days. And lastly, let's have a look at the average sale price to final list price ratio. Of course, a list price is the asking price in which a home seller is asking for their house, of course, right? So that ratio is more or less 98%, meaning on average, houses are selling for about 2% below the seller's final list price. At this time in 2022, the ratio was around 101%, meaning on average, houses selling for about 1% over asking. One thing to note here as well is that every single week this year, this ratio has actually been below 100%. This is also much lower than the peak last year when on average in April, houses on average were selling for about 6% over the seller's asking price. Now they're selling for about 2% below. And also this is much lower than the peak in 2021 when houses on average were selling 10% over the seller's asking price. Now they're selling for less than asking all year. Okay, that was the Austin, Texas housing market, an update for you guys. Let's have a look at the Houston market because Houston and Dallas are so much different than the stats I'm sharing regarding Austin, Texas. So for example, new listings in Houston are down by 15.2% year over year. Around 2,500 new listings over the previous 1 month. Back at this time last year, there was around 3,000 new listings. So a decrease year over year, down by 15%. Let's have a look at housing inventory. According to Redfin here, is up compared to last year, up by 7%. Also higher compared to 2021 as well. Has been more or less increasing ever since April this year. I mean, just kind of excluding 2021, look at the big difference this year compared to last year. I mean, last year this time, which was, let's say, starting in April and May last year, inventory was absolutely skyrocketing because demand was falling off a cliff, right? But this year, inventory levels are actually less than the start of the year. So around 23,000 active listings. To start the year, we had around 24,000. Much different than compared to 2022 when we had 17,000 active listings to start the year. And by the time we hit the beginning of July, there was already 21,000, just under 22,000 active listings. Much different than the levels we're seeing today here. Let's also have a look at pending home sales in Houston, Texas, because pending home sales are down by 12.5% compared to 2022. So a lack of new contracts being signed between buyers and sellers, below levels in 2021 as well. So that's contracts signed. Let's have a look at closed home sales, and that's this right here. Closed home sales down by 12.4% year over year, and also below 2021 as well. Regarding the share of price drops, this is so much different compared to Austin, Texas, because the share right now is at 37%. This is on par with a statewide average of 38%. Also looking at the past few years at 37% in Houston, Texas, this is below levels last year at 40%, but still higher compared to 2021 at 34%. But also at 37% right now, this is below pre-pandemic levels because this time in 2019, the share was 46%. And by the time we hit the end of July 2018, it was 44%. So it's pretty remarkable to see fewer price reductions compared to pre-COVID levels in Houston, Texas, especially given the fact that rates have been at or above 6% all year this year. Vastly different than we saw in 2018 and 2019. Okay, let's go back to Redfin's data center and talk about closed home sales in Houston. I mean, vastly different compared to Austin, Texas, down by only 2% year over year, whereas Austin, Texas was down by 9%. Again, Austin, Texas was on par with 2021's levels. Again, as you see right there, more or less a 2-year low during the same time frame, but in Houston, Texas, far above 2021. So right now, the median sold price is $342,000. At this time last year, it was $350,000. That's a decrease of 2%. But also compare this to 2021. At this time, the median sold price was $310,000. So big picture here, if you're a buyer looking to buy a house in Houston, Texas, obviously it's a positive sign to see that prices are down by 2%. But taking a step back here and looking at how's that compared to 2021, they're still up by about 10%. And 10% in 2 years is quite significant, of course, right? Especially going from $310,000 when rates were around 3%, by the way. And also right now, prices are about $342,000. But on top of that, rates have more than doubled compared to just 2 years ago. That's, of course, because average mortgage rates have been around 7% for quite some time now. But back in this time in 2021, rates were around 3%. All right, let's have a look at how fast or how slow houses are selling in the Houston housing market. So right now, the median days in the market is 23 days. This means on average, it's taking about 12 days longer to sell a house compared to 2021, as well as last year's levels as well. Regarding the average sale price to final list price ratio, that ratio in Houston, Texas is at 98%, meaning on average, houses selling for about 2% below the seller's final list price. At this time in 2022, though, houses on average were selling for the seller's asking price. It's also interesting to see that the peak in 2022 was around 101%, much different than Austin, Texas, because at this time in Austin, Texas in 2022, the ratio there was 106%. So just goes to show how every real estate market's different. The Austin housing market was absolutely skyrocketing in 2021 and the first half of 2022, which is entirely different compared to what happened in Houston, Texas. Obviously, the housing market went up a lot in those periods there, but not as much as the craziness we saw in Austin, Texas over the past several years. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about Dallas, Texas. So new listings in Dallas, Texas are down by nearly 26% year over year. Huge decline of active listings because a lot of people do not want to sell their houses when they have a rate of less than 4%. And of course, a lot of people have rates of less than 3% as well. Why sell your house if you're not forced to and give up your historically low rate, especially given the fact that rates are around 7% right now, right? So new listings are down by nearly 26%. Let's have a look at housing inventory in Dallas, Texas. Very interesting. So active listings is down 7% compared to 2022. At this time in 2022, inventory levels were absolutely skyrocketing, whereas this year it's actually down year over year. So over the previous month, there's around 13,374 active listings. To start the year, there's around 14,495. Way different than 2022, because at this time in 2022, there was around 14,418 houses for sale. To start the year, there's only 7,335. So active listings more or less doubled in the first 7 months last year, whereas this year it's actually going down. Let's also take a look at closed home sales. And that's this right here. Closed home sales only down by 4.9% year over year. I'm guessing the share price drops is also lower compared to Austin, Texas as well. Let's have a look at that. So the share price drops is at 44%, a little bit higher than the statewide average at 38%, but of course much lower than Austin, Texas, when the share is at 54.4%. So going back to Dallas here, the share at 44% is higher compared to last year at 39%, also higher compared to 2021 at 34%, but at 44%, this is still lower than pre-pandemic levels at 52%. It's also lower than this time in 2018 when the share was 48%. Now again, it's only 44%. In regards to how fast or how slow houses are selling in Dallas, Texas, it's taken about 27 days to sell a house. Therefore, it's taken about 10 days longer to sell a home in Dallas, Texas compared to the past couple of years here. Regarding the sale price to final list price ratio, that ratio is at 99%, which of course means that houses on average are selling for about 1% below the seller's final list price. This is lower than last year's levels when the share was 103%. This is also lower than the peak, which was set in April last year, when houses on average were selling for about 6% over the seller's asking price. Now they're selling for about 1% below. And with that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you guys got any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate you. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.